Tonight, we start with the biggest story of the hour, the Trump assassination attempt. This weekend, the former U.S. president was attending a rally. That's when he was shot at. How did it all happen? Who was the shooter? And why did he do it? We will look at all of this. And while Trump survived the assassination attempt, can America's democracy survive this chaos? How will it impact the upcoming election in November? Also, a look at the conspiracy theories doing the rounds on social media. We'll cover all of it. In China, the Communist Party meets as the economy faces challenges. Why is Pakistan trying to ban Imran Khan's party? Why was this weekend so deadly for Gaza? And can gratitude help you live longer? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia should attend the second Ukraine peace summit. But the Russian deputy foreign minister has ruled out Moscow's participation. He cited dissatisfaction with Kiev's preconditions for the peace talks. Russia was not invited for the first such summit held in Switzerland last month. Armenia hosts joint military drills with U.S. troops. It's the latest sign of Yerevan's rapprochement with the West. Historically, Armenia has been a Russian ally, but since last year, ties between the two nations have been strained over Azerbaijan. Bangladesh's Prime Minister promises to crack down on corruption amid a slew of scandals, one of which involved Sheikh Hasina's former house help. The man in question now travels mostly by helicopter and has a fortune of more than $30 million. It would take an average Bangladeshi more than 13,000 years to earn that amount. No surprises likely as Syrians vote in their parliamentary election. This is the fourth election in the country since the civil war erupted in 2011. President Bashar al-Assad's party is expected to retain power. The ruling Ba'ath Party has been in power since 1963. And at least 9 people killed from a car bombing at a cafe in Somalia. The incident took place in the capital, Mogadishu. The cafe was packed with football fans watching the Euro 2024 final. Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda-linked group, has claimed responsibility for this attack.
Take a look at what happened.
I got you, sir. I got you.
Let me get my shoes.
It all unfolded in a flash. Donald Trump was shot at during a rally in Pennsylvania. About 6 minutes into his speech, there was a series of popping sounds. These were gunshots. It was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, the former president of the United States of America. As many as 8 shots were fired. 1 bullet grazed Donald Trump. It was a very narrow escape for him. Take a look at this.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus.
Watch out.
Wait.
That's an extremely powerful image. Trump is doing fine now. But this shooting could have a far-reaching fallout. It threatens to upend the U.S. presidential election and it exposes the rot in American democracy. We'll discuss all of it tonight, from what exactly happened to who the attacker was and how he managed to target a former U.S. president. It's been 48 hours since the shooting. A lot of questions remain unanswered. Here's what the investigators have managed to piece together so far, starting with the identity of the attacker, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was the one who fired the shots. He wasn't at the rally. Some spectators saw him outside. They say that he was behaving in a strange manner, so they tipped off the security officials. But before they could get to him, he opened fire on Donald Trump. He was stationed at a nearby building, less than 450 feet away from Trump. The attacker was at an elevation, so he had a clear line of sight to Trump. Some eyewitnesses saw him just moments before the attack.
So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle.
Crooks, the shooter, was using an AR-15 rifle. It's a semi-automatic weapon. This gun is quite popular in America. It can fire multiple shots in quick succession. When the first gunshots were heard, there was complete mayhem at the venue. Secret Service officers rushed to the stage to protect Donald Trump. As you would know, Secret Service is the agency that is tasked with protecting American leaders. So they moved in quickly to shield the former president. But one spectator was killed, in all likelihood by one of the 8 bullets that were fired. 2 other people were injured as Trump supporters ran for cover during the attack.
I'm at the Trump rally and somebody just started shooting. What just happened? Oh my God.
I don't know. I saw him standing after when the cheering was going on. Well, he was up. He was standing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That was like 5 shots, bro.
Moments after the attack, the Secret Service spotted the attacker. Let me show you the pictures now. That's a team of snipers. They're part of the Secret Service. The snipers were facing the attacker. They shot and neutralized him. And all of this happened within seconds. But it could have been a lot worse. The investigators found bomb-making materials in the attacker's car. So why did Crooks do it? Why did he try to assassinate Donald Trump? So far, little is known about his intentions. Reports say that he was acting alone. So was this a politically motivated attack? Again, we don't know. The full story is yet to come out. Crooks was a registered Republican. That's all that we know for now. The FBI has been combing through his social media. They haven't found anything objectionable, they say. Crooks graduated from high school 2 years ago. He was awarded for his performance in maths and science. Some of his former classmates have spoken. They have described him as an outcast.
A kid that was always alone. He was always bullied every day. He was just an outcast. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much. So
the investigators now have their task cut out. They still have to figure out the motive. Why did this 20-year-old man want to assassinate Donald Trump? The motive is not clear, although Trump's allies are already blaming the Democrats. Since the attack on Saturday, President Joe Biden has addressed the press twice. He has condemned the attack and he's offered his support for the investigation.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down.
Leaders from across the world have issued statements, including a rare one by Chinese President Xi Jinping. It was published by China's foreign ministry. It said the Chinese president has expressed sympathy for Donald Trump. Russia, too, has weighed in, trying to blame the current U.S. administration for this attack. Russia says the Biden government, and I'm quoting, the Biden government created the atmosphere which led to the shooting. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also condemned the attack. In a few hours from now, Donald Trump will address the Republican National Convention. He will accept the nomination of his party, the Republican Party. He will officially become their candidate. It will be his first public appearance since the attack, so you can imagine how charged and significant it will be. An air of tension hangs over the event. All eyes are on Donald Trump and his response. The convention is being held in Wisconsin. Trump supporters are mobilizing in large numbers, many of them with T-shirts like these, featuring an image of Donald Trump. It has now gone viral, this image. You can see him clenching his fist in the air with streaks of blood on his face. It's a politically powerful image that Trump will surely benefit from. The presidential election has entered a new, more dramatic phase in America. What Donald Trump says at today's convention will set the tone for it. We're just months away from the US election. So this shooting will have a political impact. Voters won't simply forget all this. They will be influenced by it. The question is how? How will they be influenced? Well, we can think of two ways. First is the optics. Saturday's event was caught on camera. It will add to the contrast between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The president can barely string sentences together. Meanwhile, his rival brushed off a gunshot. And this picture sums it up. A bloody Trump raising his fist and shouting repeatedly. You may oppose him politically, but you cannot deny that that requires courage. The Trump campaign is already cashing in on it, like we just showed you. That picture has now been put on T-shirts. Some Republicans are getting it tattooed on their bodies. So clearly, it's a defining moment of this campaign. Secondly, it's an opportunity to reach new voters. You see, Trump supporters are highly loyal. They will always turn up and vote for him. But his problem has been the swing voters, people who are undecided on whom to support. That's where the shooting could help Donald Trump. He can use this incident to create an aura around him of strength, courage, and statesmanship. And this kind of messaging does help. There is precedent for it. In 1981, then US President Ronald Reagan was shot at. Unlike Trump, he was seriously injured, and immediately his approval rating shot up from 60% to 68%. So Trump could be looking to replicate that. He's not lashing out on social media. Instead, he's calling for unity. He has asked Republicans and Americans to stand strong and determined. Expect more of that tonight. Trump has arrived in Milwaukee for the Republican convention. Today, he will officially become the party's nominee for president. Now, a key part of the convention is the speech. And Donald Trump has apparently rewritten his. He's rewritten his speech. The new one will focus heavily on calls for unity, very statesmanlike. So I guess the plan is quite clear. Use the shooting to show a different side of Trump, a survivor who can unite and heal America. If it clicks, voters may forget the criminal convictions and trials. For the exact impact, it's hard to quantify, really. Opinion polls in the coming days should give us some clarity on how it has helped the Trump campaign. But some political experts have made assessments already, like Dick Morris, a former Democrat strategist. He says Trump could pull 10 to 15 points ahead of Biden. And what's the lead right now? Just 2 points. It could go up to 10 to 15 points. So the shooting could effectively decide this election. Which brings us to Joe Biden. How will he navigate this episode? Again, the strategy is quite clear. Biden delivered a rare speech from the Oval Office. He too called for unity. He wants to portray himself as America's healer-in-chief. But it's a tough sell. For starters, his own party is split. Many Democrats have asked Biden to step aside. 24 former lawmakers have written to the president. They're calling for an open Democratic convention. What's an open convention? What does it mean? It means that delegates can vote for whoever they want, possibly someone other than Biden. But the problem is time. The Democratic convention is slated for August 19th, and Biden remains defiant. He's planning to stay on in the race despite concerns. So let's recap where this election stands. Biden is unpopular and facing party rebellion. Meanwhile, his opponent, Donald Trump, has just survived an assassination attempt. On paper, it's a no contest. But Biden's advisors are still hopeful. They want to draw the focus to policy issues like abortion or health care or maybe even gun control. Trump has always rallied for gun rights. Can he still do that as a survivor of a shooting? Or will he tone down the rhetoric? All these questions will shape the election. The vote is still 4 months away, so a lot can change between now and November. Trump's speech tonight will offer us some clues. A sneak peek into how he will frame the assassination attempt. You know what America needs right now? Some CIA intervention. Just look at the state of affairs since 2020. A riot in the Capitol, an attempt to overturn elections, old men clinging onto power, and now an assassination attempt. The CIA has toppled regimes for far less. But on a serious note, what does this say about US democracy? That it's in crisis. You can't dismiss this as random violence. This is the result of deep-rooted problems like hate politics and culture wars. Just consider the issue of guns. It's a matter of life and death in the United States. Guns kill 118 Americans every day. I'll repeat that. Guns kill 118 Americans every day, yet the US doesn't crack down on gun ownership. Why? Because the issue has been politicized. And look where it got them. A gunman almost killed a US presidential candidate. The question is, why is the United States unable to address it? We can see the red flags from outside. Why can't American politicians see them? Because of two reasons. One, they're too busy looking outside. The US regularly judges other countries in the world, their human rights, their secularism, their elections. But who is judging the United States? No one. American politicians are convinced that their country is perfect. Hence, there is no introspection. That's one reason. Now we come to the second reason, hunger for power. Every politician is driven by this hunger, but look at the extent to which US leaders have gone. Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. In other democracies, the loser would have conceded, but not Trump. His supporters stormed the US Capitol. They tried to overturn the election result. Joe Biden's problem is different. He is clearly unfit to become president again. He keeps getting names and places wrong. Some of his own party colleagues want him to step aside. Yet what does Joe Biden do? Cling on for another 4 years. So my point is quite simple. Both these leaders only care about one thing, and that is their victory. They don't seem to care about national interest. And apparently this is the best that America can do. A 78-year-old who tried to overturn an election and an 81-year-old who doesn't remember what he had for breakfast. If this isn't political decline, what is? And let's not forget the policy issues. Abortion being the most important one. Almost 24 US states have restrictions on the procedure. 24 US states deny women control over their bodies. It's one of the key election issues this time. Just imagine that. The year is 2024. But America is still debating a woman's rights over her body. Same with Trump's criminal trial. He may be guilty of the charges against him. But look at the timing. You had 4 years to prosecute Donald Trump, yet when do you convict him? In May 2024, just months before he takes on Joe Biden. When other countries do it, it's political persecution. When the US does it, it's due process. Which is why Saturday's attack should not surprise anyone. It's the result of a toxic cocktail, years of divisive discourse, decades of relaxed gun laws, and a political system that breeds despair. But is there a way out? Well, the first step is acknowledgement. The US must realize that it's not a perfect democracy. It's a backsliding and flawed democracy. So stop investing time in judging others. Instead, look at yourself. The next step is political upheaval. Focusing on unity instead of divisions and hate. You'll need fresh leaders for that, not politicians and businessmen who lost their wisdom teeth in the Cold War. So this shooting can be a double-edged sword. It could drag America deeper into divisive politics, or it could jolt the people into action. It all depends on Trump and Biden. They have both called for unity and calm, but right now the biggest service they can do is walk away. One reason for this decline is conspiracy theories. They're all across social media. Minutes after Trump was struck, the theories, in fact, started coming in. Thousands called it staged. Trump supporters blamed Biden. Many pointed fingers at the deep state and Antifa. And some even blamed the Chinese. Now, America is not new to assassinations or conspiracy theories. But this was the first in the era of social media, and that meant that things quickly got out of hand. Our next report debunks the conspiracy theories doing the rounds.
Look what happened to our country.
At 6:05 p.m. local time, Trump turns to his right. He's showing the crowd a chart. It was on border crossings. Seconds later, there's a gunshot. Trump flinches. He ducks behind the lectern. Secret Service arrives. He's escorted off the stage, but not without a fist bump. Within just minutes, Trump was the highest trending topic on X. People rallied behind him. They shared his videos. They posted latest updates. Questions were being raised. The second most trending topic was also related to Trump, but it was just one word: staged. Thousands of posts on X claimed just one thing: the shooting was staged. Trump did it to boost his campaign. And there were over 228,000 posts on the platform claiming the same. Social media bots further helped intensify it. According to an analysis, 45% of the posts with the hashtag staged shooting were inauthentic. Of course, there's no evidence to support this claim, but when has that ever stopped social media? And it wasn't the only rumor doing the rounds. Some Trump supporters claimed Biden was behind it. They claimed it was an inside job, and politicians joined in the chorus. Republican Mike Collins posted, "Biden gave the orders." Elon Musk too claimed it could have been deliberate. So the shooting opened a Pandora's box of conspiracies. One of the trending topics was Antifa. It's a left-wing anti-fascist movement with anarchist tendencies. Trump has long targeted the movement, and the moment he was shot, his supporters pointed fingers at them. In focus was a man called Mark Violet. They called him an Antifa activist, but the picture they attached was of football commentator Marco Violi. The confusion was so grave that Violi had to clarify on Instagram in the middle of the night. Another conspiracy theory claims the deep state was behind it. Theories suggest Trump is waging a war against them, so they tried to kill him. And who exactly is this deep state? According to some theories, it's a mix of the CIA, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Mike Pence. Posts with deep state on X were viewed over 4.8 million times. And the theories only got crazier. Some claimed the Chinese were behind it. Some pointed fingers at the Mossad. Others blamed billionaire philanthropist George Soros. A few even claimed it was a body double. Now, assassination attempts are often cannon fodder for conspiracy theories, and when it's a US president, all bets are off. So this isn't new, but it is the first such incident in the era of social media. Trump's shooting played out in real time, so the speculation, hate, and abuse were out of hand. And social media platforms like X did nothing to clamp it down. Coupled with artificial intelligence and bots, it was as if the conspiracies outpaced reality. Trump may have survived the assassination attempt, but with the presidential election just 4 months away, we all have to see if America's democracy can survive these conspiracies.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're our fellow Americans. We must stand together.
Now let's talk about China. This week, Beijing is hosting a crucial meeting. Top Communist Party leaders are gathering. The purpose? To shape the future of China's economy. It's going to be a tough task. The meeting itself is off to a rough start because fresh economic data is out and it shows further decline for the Chinese economy. It grew at the rate of 4.7%. This is from the April to June quarter. 4.7%, from the April to June quarter, the first quarter of the new financial year. And 4.7 is below Beijing's target. China had hoped to grow at 5% this year. They've got 4.7, so this performance is below expectations, and the reasons are the same old ones. The continuing slump in the property sector. Sales of commercial properties are down by 25%. This is for the first 6 months of 2024. Home sales are even worse. In the month of May, China had 60 million unsold apartments. It would take 4 years to clear this inventory if Beijing doesn't extend any government aid. 4 years. And will it extend government aid? At this point, China really cannot afford to do so. The government's own finances are in poor shape. Local governments have trillions of dollars to repay. They now owe as much as $11 trillion, so the debt is quite high. There is growing unemployment and weak demand. If you connect the dots, this is the picture you get. China's economy is in a state of slowdown, if not recession.
I think the economy is really under pressure. This year, it's really the case for everyone, whether it's businesses or individuals. We're really feeling that pressure.
In terms of income, savings, or purchasing power, personally, I haven't lost much. But we are worried about the future. We think that the economy is going to stagnate for a relatively long time.
So people are openly expressing concern, which brings me to this week's meeting in Beijing. For the next 4 days, top government officials, military leaders, heads of provinces and academics will hold intense discussions. They'll discuss the Chinese economy and shape the country's economic strategy for the next decade. This meeting is called the third plenum. It happens once every 5 years. And how many officials are attending? A total of 400. Like I said, high-ranking government officials and members of the Communist Party, including, of course, Chinese President Xi Jinping. Chinese mouthpieces have been writing about this meeting, and I have one such report with me. This is what it says. A wide range of reform-focused policies are anticipated to be high on the agenda. So if Xi Jinping wants, he could use this meeting, the third plenum, to try and repair the Chinese economy for good. This would be the ideal platform to do it. In the past, some of the biggest reforms in China have been introduced on this very platform. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping brought in his reform and opening up agenda at the third plenum. 1978, Deng opened up the Chinese economy to the world, and those reforms turned China into an economic powerhouse. Then in 2013, Xi Jinping used this platform for another big shift. He dismantled China's one-child policy. And now, more than 10 years later, the Chinese economy needs a reset. If the president wants, he could seize this moment. But it may not happen, because as far as the Chinese president is concerned, there's nothing to fix. Beijing refuses to acknowledge its problem. Listen to this statement from today.
I would like to emphasize that the fundamentals of the Chinese economy continue to improve, and the positive factors driving economic recovery have accumulated and strengthened. China is a top destination for foreign-funded enterprises to invest and develop.
Our fundamentals are strong and continue to improve. That's what China says. In fact, that's what most leaders say when growth slows down. The fundamentals are strong. That's their go-to excuse. So expect more of the same in the third plenum. The Chinese government has released some official readouts. They suggest that Xi Jinping will reinforce his priorities. In other words, he'll push more of his agenda instead of announcing any major reforms that China really needs. 2024 was supposed to be the year of China's comeback. At this rate, it's becoming the year of China's decline. In Gaza, the war is in its 10th month. 38,500 Palestinians have been killed, most of them women and children. Half of the strip is now a mound of rubble. 1 million Gazans have been displaced. 22% of the population is facing famine, and yet the war shows no signs of abating. On Saturday, Israel struck Al-Mawasi, an enclave in South Gaza, and 90 people were killed, 90 killed. More than 300 others were injured. There were bodies everywhere as people rushed to rescue the survivors.
I was sitting safely in my tent when suddenly the tents around me in this building were hit. We started running. I got out of the tent and ran on the streets. The bombardment was ongoing. We came here where this street begins. It had also been hit. The whole street was full of bodies, body parts.
Al-Mawasi is located near the city of Khan Yunis. In the month of May, Israel designated it as a safe zone. That means it won't be attacked. So thousands of refugees moved there. They were living in camps. But 2 days back, Israel attacked here. Why did it strike what it had called a safe zone? Here's what Israel says. The attack was targeted at Mohammed Deif. He's a senior Hamas military commander, one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack. According to Israeli intelligence, he was in one of those buildings in Al-Mawasi, which is why the strike was sanctioned. So did Israel manage to kill him? Listen in to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has to say.
The state of Israel, through the IDF and the Shin Bet, attacked Gaza today with the aim of thwarting Mohammed Deif and his deputy, Rafa Salama. There is still no absolute certainty that the two have been eliminated, but I want to assure you that one way or another we will reach the top of Hamas.
So Israel knew his location, they carried out the strike, yet they are not sure. And it's not the first time that this has happened. Mohammed Deif is one of Israel's most wanted men. He survived multiple assassination attempts. He may have survived this one too, while 90 others lost their lives. Hamas says Israel is lying to justify its attack. It says none of their leaders, none of the Hamas leaders, was present in Khan Yunis.
The occupation's allegations that it is targeting Palestinian leaders in this brutal raid and massacre are false and baseless. This is not the first time that the occupation has claimed that it is targeting Palestinian leaders, and then it turns out that this is not true.
So while Deif may have escaped death again, last weekend proved to be deadly for many in Gaza. On Saturday, Israel struck another refugee camp. 20 people were killed here. This morning, it bombed a United Nations-run school in Gaza. The strikes killed at least 17 people. 80 others were injured, and several lie under the rubble. What explains these new relentless strikes? What is Israel trying to achieve now? Well, it's hard to say. Israel says it wants to eradicate Hamas, but that's been their goal since day one. So what has changed now? Why the incessant strikes? These are questions that Israeli citizens are also asking. On Sunday, thousands of them marched on a Jerusalem highway, and they had only one demand: bring the hostages back.
We're on road number 1 here on the way up to Jerusalem. We're marching with thousands of Israelis with the call, bring them home now, bring our family back from Gaza, bring our hostages, take the deal now, Israeli government, take the deal.
He's talking about taking the deal. Until this weekend, there was a deal on the table, a ceasefire plan. It was proposed by the US. It included a complete pause in fighting, release of hostages by Hamas, return of the remains of dead hostages, and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. This was the deal. It was all supposed to happen in 3 phases. In the last 1 week, talks made some progress. Hamas softened its position. The US expressed optimism. Qatar and Egypt shuffled to push forward a deal, but Israel remained defiant. At first, Prime Minister Netanyahu tried to harden his stance. He wanted to tweak the conditions. Then he ordered the strikes. Looks like Israel never wanted the deal, and they killed it with airstrikes. Because today, Hamas said it will pull out of the deal. And with the uptick in violence, it's unlikely that a compromise will be secured anytime soon. So even after 283 days and more than 38,000 people dead, there is no end in sight for the war in Gaza. Now we turn to Africa, to Rwanda in the center. It's a nation of about 13.5 million people, and it went to polls today. The voting booths opened at 7 in the morning. Rwanda has 9 million registered voters. They had till 3 p.m. to cast their votes, and the tallying is already underway. We'll get the official results soon, but most people already knew the outcome even before the first vote was cast. This election should usher in a fourth term for Paul Kagame. Kagame has been president since the year 2000. He has fought 3 elections so far, and his lowest vote tally, was 93%. In the last election, Kagame secured 99% of the vote. That is why this election is also considered a foregone conclusion. But who is Paul Kagame? Why is he so popular? And is there a reason that no one ever challenged him? Our next report has the details.
You can't fake unity, you can't fake excitement, you can't fake a turn-up like this one.
That was Paul Kagame, Rwanda's incumbent president. His last campaign rally on Saturday was packed with a sea of supporters, all sporting red, white and sky blue, the colors of his party. The Rwandan Patriotic Front, or RPF. The RPF has ruled Rwanda since 1994, for 30 years. Kagame has been president for 24 of these, but Rwandans show no sign of anti-incumbency. In fact, 99% of the voters chose Kagame during the last election, back in 2017. That's an absurdly high vote share, but when you dig deeper, it stops being surprising. There aren't too many people who are allowed to contest the presidential election. The same 3 candidates stood in 2017 and today. There was Kagame, Frank Habineza from Rwanda's Democratic Green Party, and an independent, Philip Mpayimana. So while Kagame received 99% of the vote in 2017, the other 2 candidates together won just 1%. But despite this, Rwandans have to choose among the same 3 people again. It's not that other people didn't want to contest, they just weren't allowed to. Like Diane Rwigara. She is an outspoken critic of Kagame. She tried to run as an independent, both in this election and the last. But she was disqualified both times. Disqualifications are a regular affair in Rwanda, and Kagame always seems to benefit. But that's not to say that he would not win anyway. There is genuine affection and respect for Kagame in Rwanda. Because as a military leader, he ended the Rwandan genocide of 1994. Which left almost 800,000 people dead. Kagame grew up as a refugee in neighboring Uganda. He joined a revolutionary group in the country, where he honed his military prowess and used the training to form his own armed group. The Rwandan genocide was orchestrated by the government of the time, led by Rwanda's Hutu ethnic group. They went about killing thousands of ethnic Tutsis, the ethnic group Kagame belongs to. Kagame used his forces to fight against Rwanda's genocidal government, and in a few months he succeeded in ending the pogrom. That is when Kagame took charge. He became vice president and defense minister in 1994, putting a puppet president in charge. In 2000, the puppet resigned and Kagame became acting president. He fought and won his first presidential election in 2003, and he has been winning ever since. Over the last 30 years, Kagame has tried to put an end to Rwanda's ethnic divisions, going as far as to outlaw talk about ethnicities. He has also focused on economic growth, transforming Rwanda's capital, Kigali, into a major city in the region. Kagame has these achievements to his name, along with some darker ones, like abolishing term limits, stifling criticism and the opposition, and even destabilizing a neighboring country. He is seen as both a savior and an autocrat. While Kagame's legacy is a mixed bag, one thing is almost certain. He will remain in charge of Rwanda for years to come.
Our next story is from Pakistan, the junta-run failed state pretending to be a democracy. Pakistan's government made an announcement today. They seek to remove a thorn in their side. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his political party, the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party. This is what Pakistan's information minister said today.
वफाकी हुकूमत पीटीआई को बैन करने के लिए केस मूव करेगी। तहरीक-ए-इंसाफ पे पाबंदी लगाने जा रहे हैं।
Pakistan's government plans to ban the PTI using a clause in the country's constitution. Here's how it works. The government is allowed to declare that a party is prejudicial to the sovereignty or integrity of Pakistan, that a party poses a threat to the country. The government can declare this. But after making the declaration, the government has to refer the matter to Pakistan's Supreme Court. Then it's in the court's hands. The court will deliver a final verdict. The court will decide if a party indeed poses a threat to Pakistan. So unless the government has a strong case, the move is likely to fail. Now, Islamabad claims to have credible evidence, but you should take it with a sack of salt. Pakistan's government has been trying to crush the PTI for months in a systematic manner. Its leader, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, is currently in jail. He's been in jail since last August after being charged with a number of crimes. He has more than 150 cases against him. Imran Khan was convicted of sharing state secrets. He was convicted of illegally selling state gifts given to him while he was Prime Minister. He was even convicted of marrying his third wife in an unlawful manner. But all these convictions have been overturned or suspended. He should be out of jail by now, but every time he gets bail, he is arrested again in one of the 150-plus cases. So the persecution is relentless. Up next will be a treason charge. Pakistan's government will be filing that soon. So this is what Imran Khan has been facing, while his party is fighting its own battle. The PTI wasn't allowed to contest the last election, remember, in January, but the party found a loophole. Its candidates, the PTI candidates, contested as independents, and they won the most seats. They got the maximum number of seats in that election, but they did not win an outright majority. And the parties that finished second and third came together. They formed a coalition government, and they have been ruling Pakistan since. The PTI, Imran Khan's party, is still the leading opposition in Pakistan's parliament, and Imran Khan is still among the most popular leaders in the country, if not the most popular. But Khan and his party had been sidelined until last Friday. That's when two things happened. There were two judgments by Pakistani courts. The first was about the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, Imran Khan's party, PTI. I mentioned that this party was not allowed to contest in the January election, so the candidates fought as independents. They won the most parliamentary seats that were up for grabs. But there was one major setback. Pakistan reserves some seats for women and minorities. And these reserved seats are distributed to the winning parties after the election on the basis of their respective vote share. But the PTI candidates fought the election as independents, so their party was denied a share of their reserved seats. On Friday, Pakistan's Supreme Court rectified this.
The PTI as a parliamentary party is entitled to the reserved seats to such extent that
the court ruled that the PTI was eligible for the reserved seats. Now, this has boosted the party's stature in parliament. The PTI still doesn't have a majority, but it has narrowed the gap on the ruling coalition. And this is a threat to the government, whose legitimacy has always been in doubt. So that was one court ruling in the PTI's favor. The second one came less than 24 hours later. On Saturday, a court acquitted Imran Khan and his wife in the unlawful marriage case. That was the last conviction against both Imran Khan and his wife, and it was overturned. Both of them should have been released from prison after this. In fact, Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi, was almost at the door. But they were detained again at the last minute on some other charges. So you see how close Imran Khan was to getting out and how his party has been given a boost by the courts. This is why the Pakistani government is panicking and looking to try and ban the PTI. It's a desperate move, a last-ditch effort to crush their biggest foe. But will Islamabad succeed? Or should we say, will Rawalpindi succeed? It's a contest worth watching. Now we head to Kenya, where a horrific case has been making headlines, a case involving a serial killer. On Friday, 8 dead bodies were discovered in a quarry. This was a quarry used as a dump site in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. 8 bodies were discovered there. All of the victims were women and their bodies had been dismembered. This led to public outrage. Kenyans were alarmed and afraid. They wanted to know who was behind these murders. The police made a breakthrough today. They arrested a man who confessed to the murders. And not just of the 8 people who were found, the suspect confessed to killing 42 women. Here's our report.
On Friday, the Kenyan police found 8 bodies. These were discovered at a trash-filled quarry in the Mukuru neighborhood in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The discovery led to fear and confusion.
6 bodies were recovered in the morning and now 2. That's 8 in all. We don't know whether they were among the people who were abducted during the protests. Since most of them are women, we are also not sure if this is a case of femicide or not. This site has a history of bodies being dumped.
The location of the bodies led to speculation. On July 6th, another body had been discovered at a different quarry. The body of a student, Denzel Omondi. Omondi had been protesting against the government, against Kenya's recently overturned finance bill. When his body was discovered, people thought he had been killed during the protests by the Kenyan police. That investigation was already underway, and the 8 other bodies turned up in the Mukuru quarry. Then a 9th one was found there over the weekend. This led to more tensions between the government and protesters. The protesters were pointing fingers at the police again, so they had to work fast to disprove this. And today, the Kenyan police made an arrest.
The suspect confessed to have lured, killed and disposed 42 female bodies at the dumping site, all murdered between 2022 and as recent as last day, 11th of July, 2024. Unfortunately, and this is very sad, the suspect alleged that the first victim was his wife.
The Kenyan police arrested this man, Collins Jumesi Khalusha. He is 33 years old. He lives near the quarry in the Mukuru neighborhood, and he has reportedly confessed to the murders. Not just 8, but 42 murders. His first victim was his wife. The police say he killed her in 2022, and he has been murdering women ever since. The latest murder took place last week on the 11th of July. This is how the Kenyan police described the man.
It is crystallizing that we are dealing with a serial killer, a psychopathic serial killer who has no respect for human life. A psychopathic serial killer who has no respect and dignity.
The police went to Khalusha's house. There they found his tools: a machete, industrial rubber gloves, rolls of sellotape, and nylon sacks. The police say that the serial killer would dispose of his victims by hacking up the bodies, putting them in nylon bags, and dumping the bags in the quarry. The police also found multiple cell phones and identity cards at the killer's house. The phones are how they found the killer. One of them belonged to a victim. The police tracked it to Khalusha's house. His arrest should bring an end to the case. But questions will be asked. How did 42 people get killed over 2 years without the police noticing? That's something the Kenyan police needs to answer.
An attempted assassination, a political upheaval, death, destruction, despair. It's a new week, but it's the same drill. It seems like there is not much to be grateful for. And before you blame us, let me add here, this is the news because this is our world right now. Yes, there is a lot to worry or complain about. It may seem like there's little that you can thank your stars for. So the feeling of gratitude does not come easily. But science says it is worth searching for. Tonight, we'll tell you why. But first, let's answer this. What is gratitude? It's about two words, acknowledgement and appreciation. Meaning spotting things that make us feel good and being thankful for them. Acknowledgement and appreciation. It could be a promotion, a good hair day, or the food on your plate. Big or small, it doesn't really matter. Being grateful shifts our focus. And it is not about forcing positivity. It allows us to look at what we do have instead of what we don't. This is what makes gratitude a positive juice, because it leaves a lasting impact on our health. So much so that it can help you live longer. A new study is out, the first of its kind, and it says that gratitude can lower the risk of dying of any cause by as much as 9%. They put a number to it, but if you practice gratitude, you already know that it's good for you. Study after study has shown this. It reduces the risk of cancer. It helps the heart stay healthy, the mind and immune system strong. It is great for relationships. Plus, those who are more grateful are more likely to get better sleep, age slower, be more confident and happier. Because gratitude reduces anxiety, it boosts decision-making and self-esteem, so what's not to like? Yet, gratitude remains elusive. Life gets in the way. And often so do genes. Some of us have higher genetic tendency to experience gratitude, but we don't need to be slaves to our genes or circumstances. Gratitude is a lot like exercise. We know it is good to work out. Similarly, we know it is good to be grateful. Both these things make life better, but exercise demands a routine. Plus, you have to overcome your natural desire to laze around. Similarly, we need a habit of being grateful, even when we don't really feel like it. An expert suggests two simple steps. First, start with interior gratitude. Notice the things around you. Simplicity is the key here. It could be the warmth of the sun or a nice cup of coffee. And the second is to practice exterior gratitude, meaning extend your gratitude towards others. Now, you may say that you're already acing it. An average person says thank you 6 times a day, which is great, but it takes more than absent-minded thank yous. You have to be more specific when giving out thanks. There are 2 quick tips here. But despite all the studies on gratitude, science really does not indicate the perfect plan. According to one survey, 77% people feel more grateful during holidays, which is great for Indians because we have about a dozen harvest festivals. We mark them to share our gratitude, to express our gratitude. Cultures across the world have similar celebrations. Nestled in the northernmost part of Japan, members of the Ainu community sing and dance to express gratitude. Meanwhile, Hawaii has a tradition of making feather lace. These are neck accessories made of feathers, and they're given as the ultimate form of gratitude. So the how, when, where does not really matter. What counts is this. We have a lot more good things that happen to us than bad ones. But it may not seem that way because we very easily focus on the negative. Again, research proves this. Being grateful beats this approach. It gives us a balanced view of life. So give it a try. And despite the bad and the ugly, strive to notice the good.
Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back. Take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Fireworks at the Eiffel Tower mark Bastille Day with an Olympic twist. Millions descend on the streets of Buenos Aires as Argentina wins Copa America and Italy reveals prototype prosthetic foot designed to simulate the anatomy of a real human foot. Finally, we're taking you back in history on this day in 2006. Twitter was launched to the public. Started out as a short messaging service for groups. Later, it became one of the world's biggest social media platforms. In April 2023, Twitter was officially rebranded as X. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Ladies and gentlemen, the presidential race in the United States has been rocked by the assassination attempt on Donald Trump during a Pennsylvania rally where a bullet just missed him, hitting his right ear. The shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, was taken out by snipers at the rally. He was armed with an AR-15 rifle and had even bought 50 rounds before the assassination attempt. He, in fact, was a registered Republican, ladies and gentlemen, but as Trump surges in the polls, striking a